Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over the actual live demo of what we would be doing if we were looking at an actual transaction based on the map that we looked at in the last video. So I'm excited to show you today. Let's take a look. Before we actually get into the math, I wanted to go over a little bit of what this transaction might look like. So here are the numbers if you want to pause and, screenshot this or write everything down. I definitely suggest it. These are the numbers that we're going to be using as we go through. The first thing you're going to want to do while you are looking to see if this is going to be a good fit for you is checking the 1% rule. So for the numbers that I just showed you, the 1% rule, we're going to look and see if this rents for 1% of the purchase price. So the property value is $200,000. And so you want to make sure it rents for at least $2,000. And so according to the 1% rule, this does match up with our needs. As stated in the last video, the next step is going to be looking at the net operating income. So how you get that is the total annual income minus the annual operating expenses. So for the net operating income, when we're looking at the operating expenses, all these numbers are annual. And so, breaking that down, we're looking at the property taxes of $2,000, the insurance of $1,200, maintenance, which is 5% of the rent, just to make sure you have some money stashed away for that, is $1,200. Um, Vacancy 5% again, so another 1,200. Property management is typically 10%. That's average, of course, that does vary, so find out what your property management company does. And that's about 2,400. And so your month or your annual operating expenses are going to be about $8,000 a year. So if you take the $2,000 a month, multiply it by 12 months, you get the $24,000 for the year. You subtract the $8,000 of annual operating expenses, and that leaves you with about $16,000 of net income. Now that we have the NOI, which is 16,000 as we just determined, we can figure out the cap rate. The cap rate, you take the NOI divided by the purchase price, so the 200,000, and that gets you 0.08. So then you take that 0.08, multiply it by 100 to get a percentage, and you end up with 8%. An 8% cap rate could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your risk tolerance. If you're very risk averse, this might be a bad thing. It might be too high. You might want to go with something a little bit more conservative in order to achieve the sustainability or stability, that you might be looking for. Next, you'll want to look at your cash on cash return. So, how you find that is you take the annual cash flow and divide it by the total cash invested. So, you can see the math right there. The annual cash flow is $3,232, and you divided that by the $40,000 you used as a down payment, and then you get 0.0808. So you multiply that by 100, just like you did on the cap rate, and that gets you an 8.08% cash on cash. So as we discussed before, cash on cash is what your return on your initial investment is. So a 8.08 return could be definitely a good one. It indicates the potential for larger returns. The last number I want to go over is cash flow. And so in order to find the cash flow, you do the net operating income, which as we determined before is 16,000 minus the mortgage payments, annual mortgage payments. So you'd be looking at $12,768. So that's $3,232 a year, or $269 a month. $269 a month might not seem like a huge number, but this is your first investment. And so, if you are adding that to other things like appreciation and the fact that you probably will be getting multiple investment properties. Most people do have more than one. $269 is not a bad number every month. At least it's income, right? And it's passive income. So even better. But the biggest question of all is always going to be is does it fit your specific situation and does it fit your goals? This property, as we've talked about before, is just kind of an example of what could potentially happen. Every property is going to have its own numbers, and you're going to want to run the numbers on each one, determining which one is going to fit your goals. This one did pass the 1% rule. The net operating income was $16,000 a year. The cap rate was 8%. The cash on cash was also 8%, and the cash flow was $269 a year. So, if you were looking at a property, would this be something that you would think about purchasing? Drop it down below in the comments and let me know. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and let me know if you have any questions I just went over. I know it's really complicated and it's really confusing, especially if it's your first transaction. But if you have anything that you want to know or, you know, have any questions, definitely feel free to drop it below in the comments and I will definitely get to it. Thank you. Have a great day.